Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth interview on intuitive exercise. Today, we are talking with Melanie Elkin, and she is the creator and the founder of Yogalicious, where she teaches private yoga, private or group yoga, and amazing workshops up in Santa Barbara and across the country. She teaches women how to listen and love their bodies. And she is a part of the Yoga and Body Image Coalition. She was really transformed by her yoga practice. And I know in our program we talk a lot about yoga and how healing it is and how amazing it is for eating disorder recovery and to heal your body image. And Melanie is really the physical embodiment of that. Yoga has changed her life. And I really wanted to interview her to show how that's helped her in her journey through loving her body and listening to her body. So thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us today. And I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yay! Thank you so much, Robin. It's what a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here and in support of you and all that you're also birthing. My sister in the world of body love.
Exactly. I know, right? And California. Woo!
Yes. We're on the same, we're on PST. Same time zone.
I mean, I'm one of the easier persons to connect to with the interview because a lot of people were different time zones. So it's very easy. So thank you.
Hey, you're
Thank you
welcome.
for living.
Thank you. We'll just do an appreciation fest here.
So you mentioned on your website that you've struggled with anorexia, with over-exercising, and I know a lot of people in intuitive exercise, this online program, can really relate to that. And I want you, if you're comfortable, sharing a little bit about how your addiction to exercise or your obsessive compulsive exercising came to be, how you developed your eating disorder, and like what were the things that contributed to those things happening?
Yeah, good. That's a juicy question. I feel like we could be here for another 6 hours, but I will, or another 10 years, but I'll sum it up. So when you first asked me that question, the first thought and image and memory that comes through is I can remember when I was 5 and I was in a ballet studio, and I can still see the image of the mirror now. And I remember as a little kid in the ballet studio getting my tights on. And I remember some young girl, and I don't know if she was a friend or not, but something about how she commented about how big my thighs were. And so I remember it, like, really at a very early age. I remember my thoughts and there being a focus on my body and focus on weight. It was also very much a culture in my household. I love my mom. I appreciate all the journey with that, and I don't blame her, but I can also say that was definitely part of our home life. Is there was a focus on food, and there was a focus on body, and there was a focus on weight. And so I can say this now at the age of 32, but I think couldn't conceptually say it then, but I in that moment, whether I was conscious of it or not, I was getting that message of something somewhere, I'm not enough, my body's wrong, who I am and how I am in my body is not okay. And so that that was part of, really, from a very young age, that was part of my life. And I actually went through anorexia twice. So my first time I went through anorexia was when I was 12. And I remember it started as like my mom saying, hey, let's just get a nutritionist. Let's just start it and let's be healthy. And it did start as something healthy, which I'm sure you can relate to. And I'm sure a lot of women can relate to on this phone call, or that's watching this, is that it starts as, let me just take better care of myself. But it's still coming from that message of I'm not enough, or the way I am is not okay. And then it became this gradual, okay, this week I'm eating 1,200 calories. Let's see what happens next week when I eat 1,100 calories. And then let's see what happens the week after that when I eat 800, and then let's see what happens when I do 500. And at that point, it got to a point where I lost a considerable amount of weight in a very short period of time at the age of 12, which is, as you know, that's like the time of puberty. So it was a big effect on my period, on my sense of self as a woman, moving from young girl to adolescent. And my parents did not want to hospitalize me at that point in my journey. So we did some intensive outpatient treatment. Had therapists, was taken out of school for a couple months, and I feel like it definitely got me on the road to be able to function in high school. But I feel like at that, like my sense of it, the story I make up, which feels accurate, is that it wasn't really I didn't really go there with it. Like I got it somewhat in my head, but I didn't get it in my body. So then 18, I'm in college. I'm at UCSB, which is like, for those of you that don't know UCSB, UC Santa Barbara. It's like the town, I'm going to make up a story in judgment right now that it's like the town of Barbies at times. It's beach community. I go to college. I'm away from my family for the first time. I'm an only child. And it started again. It was this gradual, I'm going to eat really healthy at the dorm. And I'm going to work out. And that's where the first time around when I was 12, the exercise addiction wasn't there much. When I was 18, absolutely. I mean, that was one of the driving forces. It was definitely starving myself, but it was also over exercising as well. So I'm pausing because I'm like, gosh, there's so much I could tell you about this. But what I'll tell you, and I think this is important for the people that are listening, that so many people around me were reflecting, okay, like, you need to get support, like you need to get help. And it was a gradual weight loss and big demise of my body and my sense of self. For me, it got to the point where I was asked to leave UC Santa Barbara because they had been monitoring me at UCSB. They've been monitoring me at the student health, and went home. I was 18 though, so I had to be the one to check myself in. It wasn't now in the care of my parents anymore. And so I remember, this was like the pivotal moment. I remember driving home from the gym. I was eating 200 calories at that point per day and was exercising now. Yeah, I know, right? I get the chills in my whole body as I say that. And like, I say that because it's like, when I'm telling you the story, Robin, I feel like, and we talked a little bit about this on emails, like, I feel like I'm telling you the story of someone else. And I appreciate my history and my story. And I still feel like I'm telling you someone else's story because it's so not even there. And what was true at that time is I remember driving home from the gym. I had just done a workout and I started to feel really dizzy. And I had felt really dizzy standing up and down at that point, but never just like actually sitting and driving. And so I started to freak out, and I drove to my dad's house, who I wasn't speaking with at the time, but he was the closest to the gym. Got to the emergency room, was rushed there, put on IVs. And there was this moment where, and I can feel like it at all, like the sensations in my body now, like there was this moment where I said, oh my God, like I'm killing myself. Like I am choosing, and yes, there's like so much behind it, but like I'm choosing to kill myself. And do I want to do that anymore? Like, I don't want to choose that anymore. I want to choose life. And there was like this, like I call it like the rice moment, because like it was still like a grain of rice. It wasn't quite the melon yet of my brain that like really got it, but there was this rice moment where it was like, okay, I want to choose life. I want to choose life, and I am choosing life. And so I checked myself into UCLA Medical and was there for 4.5 months, inpatient, outpatient program. And yeah, there's so much more to say to that, but I'll pause. So that was my initial journey into my eating disorder.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's hard to go back and remember. I mean, even remember everything, because for me, my memories of so much of it are really foggy, and there's certain things that I do remember, but like you said, and can totally relate, that there's those, when you describe it, it feels like you're telling a story of something you read rather than you actually lived. So I totally understand what you mean by that. So thank you for sharing that, because it takes a long time to be able to talk about like all of the stuff that led up to everything. So thank you. I really appreciate that you
Yeah, you're
were able
welcome.
to tell us that. So now here you are, you know, you're in recovery, and you're leading other women through their own kind of body issues, their body image issues, similar things that you've struggled with. What is the most difficult part for you to stay in recovery? And I'll even backtrack from that. What's for you? What's the most difficult part of getting over or recovering from your obsession from exercise? Mainly the exercise piece. Like, what was the hardest part for you?
Yeah, so I want to make sure I'm hearing you. Are you saying what's the hardest part for me now, or like
What was the hardest part for you?
What
back
was
then? Mm-hmm.
back then? Well, let me take myself back when I was 18. Let me just stand in my 18-year-old body. I think the hardest part for me was the separation of, I really thought at that time that exercise was a calorie in, calorie out. I really thought that exercise meant this is about determining how much I weigh on the scale. I really thought that exercise was a place to restrict and to punish and to sculpt my body. And so at that time, because that was so much what I thought exercise was, I think for me, what was difficult was to be able to say, one, I wasn't able to exercise initially when I was in the hospital. So that was really hard, because it was like, all right, well, this is what exercise is. If I don't have it, then I'm gonna, like, what's gonna happen? And then I'm gonna get fat. And then but then it goes deeper than that, as you know. I mean, it's like my sense of identity, my sense of self, my sense of who I was so wrapped up in exercise. So I think for me, that was it was a difficult unwinding at the time, like an unwinding and an unraveling from the grip that exercise held for me. It held the beliefs, but it also held the, like, if I don't have this, then then how am I going to be able to function? How am I going to live? So that was that. And then maybe you'll get to this, but a lot of my unwinding from that was starting to really get a sense of what exercise is for me. And to me, it's a feeling. It's a way I fulfill myself. It's a way I connect with myself instead of disconnect. It's a way that I honor and cherish and love this vessel that I feel some emotion as I say that, is like this vessel that I get to live in. And so it wasn't like, I will share for the people that are like listening to this, if you're on that side of the spectrum where you're like, I can only see exercise like that. My encouragement would be that, like, let it be a practice. Like, it wasn't just an overnight thing, it was like a dedication. It was a dedication to learning how to connect with myself and in my soul, in my heart, in my belly, more than just in what I was doing.
Yeah. That's we talk a lot about that in our program, and how basically, like, ignoring what pop culture and the media tells us what exercise is, and it's something that we have to decide for ourselves. And yeah, it's like you said, it's not an overnight process at all. And yeah, going back into treatment and having it taken away from you is difficult, but I think it's almost easier than, right? For me, it was easier to actually go back into inpatient treatment and have exercise completely taken away from me, and then thinking, oh, I'm just going to stay out and like figure it out myself. So it was like, I couldn't even imagine trying to do that myself. We interviewed someone else that did that themselves, and I was like, okay, that's incredible. I was like, wow. I'm like, I bow down to you. I don't know how you did that. Good for you.
Yeah.
So now that you're, like I was saying earlier, that you're a yoga teacher and, yoga has really, really helped you kind of discover, and I think probably tune in more to your authentic self and really honor yourself more in a different way than other forms of movement or exercise really do. How has, what's, because I practice yoga, I get it, but so many people, and even girls in recovery, men in recovery, so many people aren't exposed to yoga, or they're turned off by it, or for one reason or they just don't want to try it. Like, how would you describe yoga has helped you in your recovery from your eating disorder and your destructive relationship with exercise?
Yeah. Well, again, I love all these questions. I feel like I could write a book on them and we could have another like 20 interviews together.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I kind of backtrack a little bit to what you were just saying around exercise and being in treatment, and that was good for you. Like you needed that. I would say for me too, like it was like the initial like total immersion, right? And then for years I was a personal trainer. And so I get your field, and exercise was still that fine line for me, right? And I'm bringing all this in because when I found yoga, like even though exercise I wasn't restricting like the way I used to, it was still coming from a place of I need to fix, perfect, sculpt, train. Those words are very still linked with it. When I found yoga in 2009, for me it was like I didn't know what was happening. So I didn't know the philosophy of yoga at that point. I didn't know the 8 limbs of yoga. I didn't know the mantras or the chanting or any of that at that point, and I'm still always learning. But there was some experience that I had, and I even bring my hands to my body because it was like it was a opportunity when I stepped on my mat to turn towards myself.
Could you repeat that one more time? It kind of skipped a little bit.
Out?
Yeah, a little.
Technology. They wanted to make sure, it was when I stepped onto my mat, it was this space where for one of the first times in my life, I felt like I was home. Felt like I don't know what's happening. I can't really, well, I can't make sense of this. And something feels different about this. Yoga, there's many definitions of yoga. To yoke, one of my favorite definitions of yoga, it's unified consciousness. So it's yoking all parts of ourselves. It's yoking our mind, body, spirit, soul, all pieces of us that come online, right? And that was my direct experience through asana. So now, nowadays I don't teach just asana. I teach a lot of different components of yoga. But for me, the physical practice was an entryway in. It was an entryway that when I came to my mat, it was like this homing station where I started to actually feel. That's what's true. What's true is I started to feel. I started to notice different sensations in my body that hadn't been online before. I didn't realize how cut off I actually was from my body. My head body was running the show, not my body. So, I think for people, yoga can be very much this woo-woo out there sort of practice. To me, it's actually the opposite of that. It's this inward practice. It's this embodiment to then line up with my essence, to be able to be in full expression of my essence. But I have to come here first to be able to even experience that. So yoga was the entryway in, and it was through many different forms of it, the asana, and then how my teachers would speak about the practice, and actually breathing consciously for one of the first times in my life. And so there was many different pieces to it. Again, like I'm editing myself, my inner editor is coming in a little bit because I'm also being conscious of time, and I'm more than welcome to share more if you have more questions to that.
Oh wait, we got plenty of time. Go as long as we want.
Oh, good. Oh, yay. Okay.
So I guess too, also, like, I had a lot of apprehension even going into yoga when I was first in recovery.
Me too.
Yeah. So yeah, what was your first experience like? Like, it wasn't like you just come out and like, oh, you know, bright light shining, everything's all good. What was your initial reaction to it when you first tried yoga?
Well, so my first try of yoga was not when I started to fall in love and teach it. Let's just say that. I remember going to a class and this woman who was teaching came up to me and she's like, come on, everybody else is putting their foot behind their head. Why can't you do that? And I was like, I don't know, because this is like not my trade, you know? So that actually deterred me from yoga for a very long time. And then in 2009, when I was in the personal training world and I had done a triathlon. And at the end of that triathlon, my body actually physically broke down. I had overtrained. Even though I wasn't in that mentality full strong, it was still there. So the only thing I could do was yoga. And so that was my entryway in. And I will say, like, I remember my body was not flexible. I'm putting that in quotes because, like, what the fuck? I'm going to use a cuss word right now. Like, what the fuck is flexibility? You know, like it's such a relative thing to each person's body. And I could feel the constrictions and the contractions in my body. So I remember it feeling like a very efforting practice in the beginning, but there, like I was saying earlier, there was something that kept me coming back. And it wasn't necessarily just the physical practice. Like there was some sort of safety that I felt, some sort of I'm trying to feel into this right now. Like it was like there was a very visceral feeling that I really can't even put words to. Like if you had asked me, okay, well, literally, how is yoga for you? I'm like, well, I'm efforting through this, you know, like my body does not bend in these shapes. But there was a space, there was a community that I had not experienced in the fitness world. So I think that was my, like, in what you're saying with, like, I was resistant. I feel you on that. But there was something that kept me coming back. It was that energy, that Kula's community, that spaciousness, that invitation, whether it was spoken or not. I felt an invitation. And my experience of that I want to share with the peoples too is that, like, I think I want to claim that I was inviting something. Mm-hmm. And so for anyone to show up to yoga, it's like really to claim, like, if you're showing up, like, that's amazing. Like, really claim your power in that you're the invitation. It's not in the teacher or the guru. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people that struggle with not only, I think, body image issues or I think also like addictions, it's right. We disconnect and disconnect from our body, disconnect from our true self, from our real life. And I think there's always that longing to actually feel that connection somehow. And I think yoga, like you said, there's something that brought you back. And I think like there's something that when you go there, it allows for that space for that thing within you to actually kind of grow and have a space for it. And it's face value looking at yoga when you're in your eating disorder, your addiction, your mental health issue. It's like, I can't do that, or that's not me. I can't focus that much. You know, my brain's too crazy, or I just like, I can't think that way. I have too much anxiety, or that's not quick enough. I know for me, it was like, I can't sit still that long. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's not exercise. So
I had like, that thought too.
Yeah.
I definitely had the thought, it's not exercise. What is this? Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people that are apprehensive, especially in eating disorder recovery, for me, that was my thought. And I've talked to a lot of people, and that happens to, I think, to be a lot of people's thoughts. So for all of y'all, because I know not everyone practices yoga, give it a shot and see what happens. It's only
Yeah.
what, like an hour or 90 minutes of your time. That's it. Try it once. Just try.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I want to add something to that I would even invite, like if someone has the thought of, oh, well, I have too much anxiety, or can I sit still for an hour? Like I would invite that person to go show up as they are, in the sense that, okay, so if you feel like you need to move a little bit, move, honor that impulse. So it for me, I think where I was able to go into that space where I can sit still now for an hour if I choose to, it was that I allowed myself, and I don't think I was consciously thinking this 6-7 years ago, but to allow myself the space to be there with my anxiety. And that's something that I encourage a lot of my clients now, is like, come as you are. If you feel angry today, let that be part of the practice. If you feel anxious, like, you don't have to shut that down so you can do yoga. Like that is yoga. Yoga is the bringing it all as part of it. So we're rocking it over here with, like, we're your public service announcement for yoga.
I love it. So going back to like what now the place that you're in today, what is it difficult to stay in recovery? Is it difficult to be on the path that you're on? Or do you find it that since making so many changes and transformations that it's not difficult, it's easy? Like, what's been your experience?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I really love this question. You and I were riffing a little bit at the beginning, before we recorded. So one thing I want to be really clear is that I don't see the world in right or wrong. So, I want to presence that. And for me, what's true is I don't identify myself in recovery, even though I know that that's something that people do identify themselves with. And I so respect and honor that. For me, I feel like that was an experience I had, abso-fucking-lutely, right? Like it's real. I don't take that lightly. I don't try to shove it away or pretend that didn't happen. And for me, it's like, okay, like I experienced that, and I was in my path of recovery, or whatever you want to call it, over the past 13-14 years. And to me, it's now, I feel like when I identify myself in recovery, I almost box myself in or label myself. And I feel like sometimes we do that even in the spiritual world. Like, I'm a yogi, or I'm a conscious evolutionary person. So it's for me now, it's like that happened. And now when I don't identify or label myself, like I have more possibilities, is my experience of that. It's like when I'm in recovery, then I have limited possibilities in that context. Just, if that makes sense. I hope this is all making sense. But that's, like, from my experience, that's what I sense. And I would say that anyone's listening to this, like, you might feel feelings when I'm saying that. So I encourage you to feel that, and to know that if you identify that, it's all good. And for me, I think where I'm at in this space is that, like, I'm in the space of continual learning and discovery. So I haven't arrived. I am not like this yogi guru that sits on the top of the mountains. Absolutely, I still have places where you're asking before, like, do I ever find it difficult, or am I fully in samadhi and enlightened, samadhi bliss, But yeah, I mean, I think that as a human, well, I'm not even going to go there. Like, my experience is I do get stuck at times. But what I notice now at this part of where I am on my journey is that when I get stuck, I presence it very differently. So when I get stuck or feel stuck, I often, instead of turning away from it and going to places where I used to, which was outsourcing through exercise, through restriction, through all those different modalities, now I come back here. So when I get stuck, is like, how can I be with this? How can I participate fully with this? How can I presence this? How can I feel what's here? How can I make a new choice around that, not from a place of fixing? How can I love my experience right now? So so it's like a both and for me. Yes, I still, of course, like, I'm human. I still get stuck at times, and I drift and I get scared. But I also choose to practice and be with it very differently, which I will say has been a practice. So like, again, like if anyone's thinking like, well, that's great for you, but for me, like that's not for me. That's for you, but great, not for me. I believe that that's a possible experience for everybody. And to me, it's about practice and devotion and like every day making a commitment to being here and choosing life and choosing to care and nurture myself. It's a daily commitment, it's a daily choice.
Awesome. That's beautifully said. And
thank you.
I absolutely love how you put that. And yeah, because we don't want to think like, oh yeah, I'm recovered, I'm in recovery, I know it all, because we never know it all ever. And I love how you put that, because it does put a new perspective, especially for me too, because I'm one to go around and say like, I'm recovered or I'm in recovery. And I think, yeah, putting that label on me sometimes, I think can also put restrictions on me about like what I can do or what I can possibly achieve. So I love it. It's beautiful. And I really love that you shared that with everyone, because it's a very like light bulb aha moment and like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I get that. And it's a wonderful way to look at kind of the whole recovery process and what you do with it, you know, how you live your life moving forward. So I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you being a space for new possibilities. That's what lights me up. I get excited about what else is possible, because I think even in the context of beauty, it's like, if I'm in the context of beauty in society, I have very limited possibilities in that. I'm either fat, I'm thin, I'm pretty, I'm ugly, so to me, I'm like, I feel excited about, that's not wrong and that's not a bad context. And I feel really excited about, okay, if I periscope out of this and I create a whole new possibility, how can I live in that space? What else is possible from there?
Mm-hmm. Without the confines of labels or within something.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love it.
I can feel myself. I get really excited talking about this stuff. It's like, it's something that lights me up. And I love talking with people like you about it, because I feel like you get it, and it's fun to riff on it.
Well, it doesn't, I think a lot of eating disorder recovery is still, it's like, because it is a mental illness. So there's certain standards that you fit into to actually be qualified for anorexia, bulimia, binge eating. There's different markers. And then there's different markers for recovery, physical, mentally, emotionally. So it's like you fit into like these two separate boxes, but we are not all made that way. And when we start, and it's like, well, if we can't see ourselves out of the box of the confines of what it means to be recovered or in recovery, well, then how can we see ourselves as beautiful without the confines of what society tells us either? So it's so true. And I love that you brought that up, because it makes you squeeze into that definition or that confine. And it's beautiful to have an open possibility that there is no rules to it. And it's whatever you decide to make it. So it's awesome. I love it. Love it.
Amen, sister. Amen.
So if you I know you say you still struggle. So in those times of struggling, what, if you could name one thing, it's hard. If you can name one thing that keeps if you can name one thing that keeps you motivated to stay healthy and stay true to yourself, what would that one thing be? Challenge.
Okay, I'm gonna answer that question, and then I am gonna add one thing, because I'm gonna add when I do get stuck, what I do, like one thing that I can toss to people to presence with. So what keeps me motivated, or what inspires me to shift when I I like to call it shift and drift. When I drift, when I get stuck, when I am efforting, for me, it's my deep why, which for me is, and I connect to this pretty regularly, is like my deep why is that I, in this lifetime, know I am meant to share this message around essential beauty and around loving yourself and caring for yourself. And so for me, when I start to struggle, it comes back to, this is what I get to share. Like that inspires me. And even when I struggle, that's so cute. You just got frozen on the screen for a moment. Even when I struggle, it's like that inspires me to come back to, I get to teach this, I get to share this, and I get to share when I struggle too, right? Like I get to share that and have that be a teaching moment. That to me is what inspires me to continue to choose life, to continue to choose this path. So that's like the big nugget. And then I would say something, when you were sharing it, it sparked for me, I almost thought that's the question you're going to ask me. So I like instantly had a word pop in where, you know, if I do get struggle or get stuck, like what's one thing that I would choose in that moment? For me, it's about, am I willing to see all of myself right now in this moment, my feelings, my thoughts, my behavior, my personas that are coming in, my personalities? Am I willing to know and presence that is lovable? Which can seem kind of like an out there thing. So, you know, if someone's watching this right now, you're like, well, that sounds great. I want to really choose to see all of me as lovable. For me, it's like, okay, I literally come back to myself. Like I'll rest into the back of me, like almost like a hand at my back of my heart. Breathe. Really take my attention and turn it towards myself. Oftentimes when I'm in that, my attention's very out. Turn here. Yeah, like I really turn my attention towards, I choose to see this and myself and in this moment as completely, totally lovable. I'm not having the wrong experience. That one phrase has radically transformed my life. I am not having the wrong experience.
I love that.
Even if I think I'm having the wrong experience, I'm not having the wrong experience. And it's from that place that, again, it's like it opens up so much possibility.
Mm-hmm. It's a conscious decision to accept what is and not push it away. Yes. Be it the emotions you're having, be it anything that's going on. And I know for me and when I was in my eating disorder, like that was, everything was trying to push it away and not face it, or just, you know, numb out and push things away. And the accepting and the inviting all of it in, no matter what it be, it's complete 180 of what an eating disorder is. And it is, it's complete opposite. So yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And that's a great technique to really, it is, you know, taking a moment and feeling your breath, taking your attention into yourself, it is a practice, and part of yoga helps, the physical asana helps with that. But I think now off the mat, it's a more difficult part for sure. But the more you practice on the mat, the more it translates off the mat to so many things too. So yeah, and I love it. Thank you.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Beautiful, so much insight. I love it. I love it.
You're so welcome. Yeah, something in what you just said, the word accept, I love that. And one of my mentors I studied with, Katie Hendricks, she teaches a lot around this process of, whenever I'm stuck in something, first I want to face it. Like, so can I, like you just said, it's 180 degrees different than in being an eating disorder. It's like, first I face, can I actually turn towards this with my attention? Because I usually, my go-to is like, I want to run away right now. And then to face, to then accept. And from that space, then I can choose. And then from choice, I can take action. So I face, accept, choose, and take action.
Perfectly said. I love it. It's awesome.
I'm having fun.
One final question I have for you is, and this will, what words of advice or wisdom, which I've already feel like you've given a ton and it's amazing, but what words of advice would you have for someone that's still struggling, not to the point, right? Not to the point where they need to be hospitalized or to the point where maybe people aren't noticing, but they know, that something's not right. Their life isn't where they would hope it would be. They're not truly honoring themselves, and they're obsessing over exercise, and they're trapped within that obsession. What words of advice would you give to that person?
Yeah, beautiful. I love this. And the moment you started asking this question, the word support came into my field. And I would say to this person, community and support. And it's something that I teach in all my programs, in my continuing programs with people that have worked with me for years, in my programs where people come for overnight retreat. I think that support and community, even when you feel like you don't need it, because oftentimes I think people that are in recovery or that are in eating disorder or struggling, or maybe at one side of the spectrum that's not a full-blown eating disorder, but they're still struggling. Often I find that a lot of women are very much, I can do it by myself, or I don't need support, or support is wrong or bad, or I am weak if I need to be supported. And I would say, to me, support is one of the smartest things that I have chosen for myself, and that I continue to choose for myself every single day. I have many mentors and coaches that I work with as I coach and mentor people as well. So I would say support, and support in a way where that you find a community that resonates with you, that you find a community that you feel like you jive with, that speaks your language, like that's your tribe. I see this time and time again when I lead my group programs. It's like these women, they come together and they become sisters. It's like this sisterhood. I'm sure I'm making up a story that you probably experienced that with your people too. It's like this tribe, this sisterhood that goes so much more beyond the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual practices. That to me is a spiritual practice. So finding support, community, even if you feel really good, support and community, sisterhood, that to me is a reliable way to shift back into presence and to also keep coming home to yourself, continue to be in a space of discovery. And I know, and I get, like, not everybody's there, but I would say support is smart. It is not weak.
Absolutely. And hopefully there will be more and more and more groups out there to help support people with this, especially in the exercise front. One of the reasons I created this program is because there really isn't a lot of things out there for obsessive exercise. And that was a huge part for me, as I know it was for you. And I wish that had more support in it, because I feel there's so much for intuitive eating in that piece, but there really wasn't anything for me. And I don't know how it was for you as far as the exercise goes. And I feel like that's a really tricky place too, because there's so many messages coming at us about what is healthy as far as exercise and movement goes. And when you're recovering and when you're trying to get your life back together, hearing those messages all the time is difficult. But having someone to support you is really, really important. And I hope things keep going where there is more of that out there. And what you're doing is amazing. And I'm sure it's helped people that were, near that brink or near that place of possibly going over to a full-fledged eating disorder. I'm sure you've seen that in some of the people you've worked with, or that they've like really, really, really were struggling. So you're doing that, and that is amazing and beautiful and much needed. It's much needed everywhere. And it's great that, that you're doing this. It's a beautiful thing, because in a sense, it gives back what you were given through your struggle. And it's making a change in the world that definitely needs to change. So thank you again so much for sharing. Thank you so much for your amazing insight, your wisdom, your energy. I love your energy. I love it. And I wish you lived closer.
I know.
California is too big of a state. So we're gonna end here, but like I said, I am so grateful for you, for all of your work, for everything you're doing, and for I love being able to see the things you're doing, and it supports me, and I know it supports so many other women, and it's a beautiful thing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You are so welcome. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I right now I'm in the topic of teaching around comparison in one of my group programs, and I think that it's so important to honor that we do compare, but to also know that this field of work, and really any field of work, but like I'm going to speak to what you and I are up to, that this is, to me, it's about a culture of collaboration and a culture of community and support. I'll go back there again. And so I feel really happy that you're out there and that you're having this program for these women and that you're doing what you're doing through Estella Fitness. Like, I think that it's so important, and that we all need to come together and bring it out. It's like, there's only one of me, there's only one of you, there's only one of XYZ, right? And it's about really supporting and getting this message out there. So I feel really happy to be on this journey with you, and I thank you so much for having me come.
Thank you.
Come talk with you and share.
All right. Thank you so much, Melanie. I will talk to you later. And again, thank you. And I hope to see you soon. Possibly. Bye.
Bye.